Right, I'm now going to do the final part of our EBSA training, which was delivered by Kat Taylor again, and it was through the Drawing and Talking programme. Now, as I do this podcast, we're going to see how long I last, because I lost my voice on Wednesday. It's coming back, but I am a bit like Marge Simpson's sisters at the moment, and I am coughing. So I don't know how annoying this is going to be for you, but I'm going to give it a go. So here we go. So on part 3, what we're looking at is how to support worried parents. So Kat started by saying that no young person exists in isolation. Parents and caregivers are really key to the success of how best to support a young person. So the first thing that Kat had on screen was an anchor. So she's talking about dropping an anchor, and I think I mentioned in the last episode. So one of the main things that Kat was talking about is how children and some adults really misunderstand what mindfulness is and grounding techniques. It seems to happen that maybe sometimes it happens in the classroom with the teacher, and they might do it kind of as a bit of a hit and run exercise, or somebody might come into school and talk about breathing techniques, and then off you go. But children don't really get it, and they don't know why they're doing it. And also there's this kind of preconception that, if you do this, then all your anxiety will go away. So that in itself is entirely useless, because it won't make it go away. So this is where the analogy of the anchor comes into it. So she said about, there's a boat, there's a storm coming, and the anchor is dropped. The dropping of the anchor doesn't make the storm go away. It doesn't make it necessarily any easier for the boat to handle the conditions of the storm. All it does is it stabilises the boat while the storm is raging and whilst it's taking place. And once the storm passes, the anchor can be pulled back up and it can get on with what it's doing. And mindfulness and grounding works in the same way. I think it's just been sold in incorrectly that if you do this, it'll fix everything. If that was the case, we'd all do it, wouldn't we? We'd all do this one thing and then it would go away. Of course we would. But that isn't the case. So when we are in the midst of an emotional storm, these techniques, they help us. They help us to feel stable. And if we can implement them correctly and practice them when we're not feeling that way, then we can do them when we're in the storm. And when the storm passes, which it always does, then we can go, right, okay, what now? What do I want to do next? I talked last time about how we help and support parents. So when it comes to working with parents, quite rightly so, their child is the most important person. And often parents want quick fixes, because obviously they can't stand to see their child in this position and in this way, because all we want is for our children to be happy and healthy, right? So I talked about meeting parents where they are last time. So we went over this again, and it is really important, because it's really important that whoever is dealing with a parent who's dealing with a child, they have to develop compassion for those people that we are working with. We have to. We all have to do it. We have to have compassion for ourselves and therefore have compassion for parents. So it's all about how we show up so we can show up best for you. And the same with parents for their children. We'll go on to that. So we did a metta exercise. So metta is the Pali word for loving and kindness. And when we are able to show loving and kindness and compassion, we then have more empathy for others. We're showing that to them. Every human, or every creature on this planet, has two primary needs. Two primary needs. The need to feel happy and the need to be safe. Free from suffering. And what we have to remember is the parents have the same needs, because every human and every creature on this planet has these two primary needs. I'm going to say them again. The need to feel happy and the need to be safe. And those parents are trying to advocate for their child, and they're trying to hold themselves in a stable place to be able to do that. One of the things she got us to do, which was really lovely, was she put everybody who's on the training course on their faces up on the screen. And we had to do an exercise where it was called Drop the Anchor. And we all had to not say it to each other on screen, but just think it and wish something for the rest of the group. So every individual in the group. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be free from suffering. And may you be at peace. And then we had to turn and look at our faces and say the same things to ourselves. Because we have to offer ourselves loving kindness and compassion. And then we can give that to others. And then it's that chain effect, isn't it? So imagining you are giving that out. Imagining you are receiving that back. And noticing how that feels. And the impact of offering kindness has. So she was teaching us about how we would speak to a child and how we may speak to a parent. And she's mentioned a book by a lady called Martha Beck. She's written a book called Beyond Anxiety. Now, one of the things Martha Beck did was she actually interviewed a hostage negotiator as part of her research for her book. And I will put this up on my page. But what we have is like an arrow going across the page. And what we have is, at the bottom we've got time, and then we have this arrow going up. And it is for us to display the following things. Active listening. Empathy. Rapport. Influence. And then, at the top of the arrow, behavioural change. When you have anxiety, when you display anxiety, it can feel like you're being held hostage by it. So a hostage negotiator is not going to go in at the same level as the person they're dealing with. They're not going to go in shouting and demanding things in return, because that's probably not going to go very well. So it's about adopting a really calm, grounded voice. You actively listen. Now, active listening is a really difficult one, and it's a difficult one to master. I find it difficult sometimes because I'm thinking about, this is the problem, right? When you're having a conversation with somebody and they're saying something and then you're thinking about what you're going to say next, often there'll be little sort of things that you do that the other person can pick up on, and I've seen people do it to me. You can actively see they are listening, but they're thinking about what they're going to say next because they want to chip in with what they want to say. So when you're working with a child enjoying and talking, you have to learn not to keep jumping in when they're talking. Oh, yeah, that happened to me. Or oh, I've got a better story than that. Adults do it. You know, if you've done something that they've got the T-shirt, worn it, and, you know, it's next level. So active listening, the techniques are things like eye contact, nodding, echo back. I was doing it on a podcast the other day, the one that's on there with Patty, and I spoke to my friend Abby, and I said, oh, was I really annoying? Because I kept going, yes. And she said, no, because it showed you were still in the room, you were actively listening, and you were validating what she was saying, and you were showing you were listening by the noises you were making. That's perfectly fine. But to me, listening to it back, because it's me, I was like, oh my goodness, how many times do I want to say yes? But she's right. It shows I was still in the room. It wasn't just Patty talking and silence from me. I was actively listening. I was just making the right noises. So that's active listening. Next, showing empathy. So with that, recognising what somebody is saying to you. So when they finish what they're saying, you need to say things like, I can tell you're really struggling right now. I can hear in your voice that is difficult for you, or that was difficult for you. So saying things that validate how they're feeling, showing them that you hear them. Building a rapport, so showing that person that you are there for them, and you're going to sit alongside them, and you're going to hold that space. So this can be, you can verbally ask the questions, or you can show it physically. So how can I get alongside you? How can we work together as a team? I'm on your side. So that can be a physical thing of sitting alongside somebody and saying nothing until they're ready. But as I said before, not sending them away. Think about what you've done. Obviously, we all need to, as parents, sometimes take a couple of minutes because so we don't say or do the wrong thing. I find that quite difficult. I co-parent, but I am a single parent. So there's times I'm here with my daughters on their own and I have no one to switch the face with. In that moment, I don't. So I have said and done the wrong thing. But I do apologise for it. And they've always said to me, we really do appreciate that you apologise and recognise when you've overstepped the mark and when you've said and done the wrong thing. Always do. So to me, respect breeds respect. It's a two-way thing. It's not, well, I'm the adult, so you have to listen to me. It's like, if I make a mistake, I'll recognise it, step up. I shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have done that. I'm human. They're human. And then we need to find ways to influence them, to make a change. The best outcomes that we have as practitioners are the ones where we make the most positive changes, are the ones where the parents come alongside as well. Kat was saying about how she wants to be known and thought of as, because she's a therapist, the kind of therapist that children want to sit and have a milkshake with, and that the parents want to sit and have a coffee with. I love that. I think that's very much what I strive for as well. I have done a family support worker course, so for me it is a well-rounded approach. It's, we all work together. We're a team. And sometimes you might find that the parent is really on board and they get it and the child doesn't. Or sometimes you find the child really does get it and the parent doesn't. So it's a finding a way to get alongside both the parent and the child. And sometimes you can see the parent and child are just either at loggerheads or, sort of stalemate. So one of the next picture that she showed us was a person and a monster, and they were both holding a rope. It's like a tug of war. And when the young person is struggling and the parent can feel overwhelmed, sometimes they can struggle too, because they feel so overwhelmed and they don't know where their child's gone and are they ever going to be okay again. So she asked us to imagine it's like a monster that we're in a tug of war with. Imagine there's a bottomless pit and neither of you want to fall into it. So we pull, they pull, we pull, they pull. And it just goes back and forth. Nobody wins. So what's the useful thing to do? the useful thing to do is to drop the rope and drop the struggle. So it doesn't change it, but we are in a much more relaxed position. I can 100% advocate for that without going into too much detail. One of my daughters had, we are pretty much through it, had ARFID. So, avoidant food restrictive disorder. I've missed a letter out there, haven't I? Anyway, due to a choking incident, she didn't eat solids for a year, and the first month was hell. And we were quite lucky to have SALT, so speech and language therapist come on board. And the first thing she said to me and her dad, back off. I'm a bit taken aback by that. I'm going on and on and on. You have to eat. Back off. Doing nothing to help your child by going on and on and on. Is it making a difference? Is it making her eat? No. Okay, different approach then. That made all the difference. Less stress for her, less stress for us. Followed her lead, went at her pace. Took a year. Oh, patience. I don't have patience, but I do anything for my girls. And we got there. Slowly, taking a day at a time, as you have to as a parent, otherwise you will get overwhelmed. Lots of breathing, and yeah, that's where we are. Anyway, so we have to think about how we show up. I've been thinking about this a lot the last couple of days. In terms of children I'm seeing, families I'm working with, things I'm seeing, and how we show up. So how we show up as parents, how we show up in our jobs. We have to try, I know there's circumstances where things are really, really hard and really, really difficult. We have to be the best that we can be. Not perfect, there's no such thing. Just be at our best. So when someone is dysregulated, we can keep ourselves in check and think about what we're saying, what we're doing, our body language, our posture, our tone of voice, what we're doing with our hands. And then she's asked us to think about, if we sort of look at ourselves and think about what let us know when we were at our best. So think of a time when you knew you were at your best and how you were feeling and why you were at your best. So for me, it would be knowing I've had a good night's sleep. Knowing I've had my herbal tea and I've slept well. And I have to be organised. So I have to have been productive. I have to know what is happening. And I haven't got all these other thoughts buzzing around in my head about what I have and haven't done. Because how can I concentrate on the person in front of me if I'm thinking about all of that? And their struggle might be really, really difficult, and it might be really, really difficult to watch, because all you want to do is sweep in and fix it, and you don't want this anymore. You want it to go away. But it's so important that we show up and just be the best we can be, not perfect, and say, okay, I can see this is difficult for you. I can see you're struggling, but I'm here, and I'm being who I need to be right now for you. So I want you to do what we had to do in training. So I want you to think of a time when you were dysregulated or you were overwhelmed and you received some really useful support from somebody. So when they supported you, they might not have, and they wouldn't have, probably had all the answers to fix that for you. But what let you know they were on your side? What happened? So perhaps they were beside you, alongside you, steadying you, gave you the validation, no judgment. Perhaps they were quiet. Perhaps they were just bearing witness to what was happening. You felt seen. They were given time. There was no rush. No expectation from you. And just letting you be. Those things, that list, is what you may have received. Those things are the things that you need to give out. You receive them and you give them out. So what will it take? What changes can you make? What will it take for you to be that person? To embody it? Okay, so the next thing we went on to was the common questions that Kat gets asked by parents when a child goes into therapy with them. The first one, is there something wrong with my child? Now, the first quote that she gives to a parent, and I'll explain why, is a quote by Socrates. I hope I've said that right. The unexamined life is not worth living. So by that quote, she said it's like living in two lands. One where someone lives in blissful ignorance. They just bowl through life. Nothing bothers them. They've not got much ambition. They don't really challenge themselves much. Don't ask questions. Quite content with their life, and that's fine. But the other life, the rich and full meaningful life, where we are showing up, stepping up, asking questions, pushing out of our comfort zone, that's the other side of it. So these are the two sides of the lands. And then we have a big valley, a big rocky valley, which is right in the middle of the two lands. And 99% of the time, the young person, they're on a journey and they're at the bottom of that valley. And a parent may respond and they may say, yeah, they've always been a really deep thinker and they get on better with older people and not with their peers. For example, why am I here? What is the point of school? Why do I have to show up? What do I want? Who am I? How do I fit amongst this group of friends? And do I want to be their friend? So they're examining their life. And Kat says, brilliant. The thing is, we do live in a different world now. We don't live in a world where the grown-ups say, children must be seen and not heard. And we don't live in classrooms where children are hit with a cane anymore. So children's brains have developed. They haven't just taken what they've been told as gospel. They're pushing back, they're questioning things. They're using their brains, they're examining their life. Brilliant. They're questioning things. So they stand to lead a really rich life because of that. But in order to get to it, they have to get from that one side of the valley to the other because it's really hard. It's why a lot of people don't do it and they choose to stay exactly where they are because that's safer for them. So the ones that ask the questions, they stand to gain a lot. But it is a really difficult process. So it's about normalising this to parents. This is all normal. I would say my daughter, my youngest, she's very emotionally intelligent and shows all her emotions and all her feelings, and she's quite stubborn, and she is a really good arguer. She's better than me. Like, she makes her point, and then it makes you step back and go, oh, yeah. So really, I think she could be a great Prime Minister. So it might be tough, and she might be very headstrong and stubborn, but all of these qualities are going to serve her really well when she's a grown-up. So that's what I hold on to. Kat said in all of her experience and all her years of doing this work with children, it shows her that these struggles will be the making of them. But they are struggling at the moment, and we do need to recognise that. They don't know where they're going or how and when they'll get there, and our job is to support them on that journey. The next thing that Kat spoke about was something called SSRI. So that stands for Strengths, Strategies, Resources and Insights. And then she asked us to think about what were the core moments that helped shape who we are today. And what were the SSRIs that we accessed during perhaps a particularly challenging time. So strengths, strategies, resources and insights. So strengths, she asked us to pick one. So a strength that we didn't know we had. One strength. One strategy that we adopted to get us through. One resource, so that could be an app we've downloaded, a person that we've included to help support us, a book we've read, a club that we've joined, or we've done an activity. And insights, what we gained and learnt about who we are as a result of the struggle. So all questions to ask ourselves. And when we did struggle, these were the times which helped us to grow, and it helped us to develop and propelled us forward. It would have been the most difficult time that we had. A time that we wish we hadn't had to go through. But it's about trying to put that into perspective. So rather than avoiding it at all costs, thinking about how ultimately, in the long run, this will strengthen them and then turn them into who they truly are. The next question that Kat is often asked, the great why. Why are they like this? So this could be, now bear with me on this one, this could be down to a big trauma. In Kat's description, she said there's two types of trauma. So T, with a capital T, where they have been through a experience that is deeply distressing or disturbing and overwhelms an individual's ability to cope, often causing lasting negative effects on their mental, physical and emotional well-being. It results from events that threaten safety, life or sanity. So that's the big capital T. Now the lowercase t is defined as things like something's happened to them. They may have felt ridiculed, embarrassed. These experiences can be enough to shut down someone's nervous system. I can't do it. I feel overwhelmed. I'm too scared. I can't go back into that environment. Lots of experiences, negative experiences, little things that feeds and feels traumatic for that young person. And when we experience these difficult feelings, our nervous system, in its wisdom, says, right, let's avoid anything that makes me feel like that again. And then we're into the spiral of overwhelm. So they experience a trigger. They get swept into that spiral. The trigger leads to negative thoughts and feelings, which leads to very difficult emotions, which then leads to overwhelm and the psychological response, which leads to more difficult thoughts and feelings. And it's really hard to get out of a spiral. When you're caught in a spiral, it's really hard to contemplate coming out of it. I can't do it. I'm not going into any situation that may cause me to feel like that again. And this is where we will role model and we will reinforce safety in the midst of a storm. One thing that's really, not one thing, there's loads that stuck with me. This one's really big. I've used it a lot actually with somebody this weekend. Young people don't listen, they look. So support them to co-regulate by role modelling that all feelings are allowed. They sit in school, they're told where to go, how to behave and what to believe. And to some extent they probably get that at home as well. They have to listen all day. So they may not listen to you, but they look. So sometimes you can say, well, you need to do this and this needs to happen and then you'll feel better. And you're like, are you doing those things? You shouldn't be on your phone too much. Come off your phone, you're scrolling too much. Are you scrolling too much? Maybe it'd do you good to get a bit of exercise. Are you doing the exercise? Maybe you need to eat healthier. Are you eating healthier? As I said, nobody is perfect. But it's about how we show up. So if we can show we're doing those things, it will click into place. If they can see what you're doing and the benefit you'll get from doing it. Like myself and my daughter, we'll have a herbal tea together before we go to sleep at night. Because I've said to my daughter, it really helps me sleep. I know you have trouble sleeping. Not sure I want a herbal tea. That's fine. Do you want to try a bit of mine? Maybe. Get up the next day. Oh, I slept so well. I think it was that herbal tea, you know. Oh, maybe I'll try a bit of your herbal tea. I like your herbal tea. Can I have a herbal tea? Sure. Great idea of yours. Lots of parents feel guilt for like breaking down in front of their child, like crying or getting cross. That's fine. They need to see you. You're not just mum or dad. You are a human. You are a person. You are not just one-dimensional. You have substance. So if you snap and you cry, well done. You've let them know you're human. That's a good thing. So we're not in the 1980s anymore. We're not parenting where maybe not everybody has been parented where we have to just tidy all our feelings away. They just push them under the carpet. That just makes for a little peaceful household. But we're not talking about the things, are we? We're not confronting them. So therefore we have a generation of people that don't know how to not be okay. And then that can cause problems then with how we then parent. So if that happens and you break down, that's all right. Talk about it afterwards. Have a great conversation. Unpick it a little bit. So when it comes to therapy, what is the right approach? So you talked about the fact that everybody knows about CBT. Everyone's got some sort of grasp on CBT. The reason for that is because GPs will recommend it. It was offered out and government funded. I don't know if it still is, but it was like the go-to talking therapy. Free to anyone and everyone. And I'm not knocking CBT. I've got a book on it. And I know people that have done it to quit smoking and things like that, and it's great. But obviously, it's not for everybody. Okay, I'm going to read this out. Research has consistently shown that a strong therapeutic alliance is one of the most important predictors of positive treatment outcomes and adherence to recommendations. The therapeutic relationship is characterized by mutual respect, empathy, and a non-judgmental attitude, which creates a safe space for clients to discuss their concerns openly. Drawn and Talking is one of those, just saying. But yeah, that, in all seriousness, that was quite a big one for me, because Kat asked us to really grasp that, really grasp that definition of who we are as practitioners and the difference that we make. But yeah, there is no right or wrong approach when it comes to therapy. It's what feels right for that person. So you could try something and not be right, and you try something else and it is right. So you've got to find what's right for you. It's just about building a strong therapeutic alliance. So going back to what I said earlier, think of a time in life when you felt really supported by another human during a time of struggle for you. List all the things that human provided that allowed you to feel supported and start to find your way through a difficult time. Perhaps it was their sense of humour. That's a big one for me that I would use with people. I do use with people. Something they revealed about themselves, that they didn't try to be perfect. Maybe it was something big, something small. But think about what worked for you and maybe what you might use to help others. So what you received and what you're going to give out. Another question asked is, have I done something wrong as the parent? So there's a diagram, and again, I'll put this on the Facebook page. But a parent is a part of a child's world, and maybe a parent thinks that they're everything, but there's lots of other factors that come into this. So you have your child, and then they have their immediate environment. Then they have interactions and connections. Then they have their greater environment. Then they have their cultural context. So there's lots more factors that feed into this. And parents will spend a lot of time kind of berating themselves on and thinking of all the things that they may have done wrong. And that doesn't get us anywhere. There is no rupture that can't be repaired, even the biggest. So she asked us to think of a time when we were trying to support someone else and we got it wrong. That's inverted commas, by the way, wrong. We felt we got it wrong. What small things did you do, could you have done to help repair any rupture that was created? And then how could you build this into a list of pointers to share with parents? So it's something for us to think about as practitioners, for parents to think about for when they're helping their child. What Kat was saying, and I definitely resonate with this, is sometimes we say things and then we worry about what we said and maybe how that landed with the other person. And so then you may have another conversation like the next week when you see them and say, I'm not sure how what I said landed with you. I'm not sure I quite meant it like that. Maybe I meant this. I don't know how helpful it was, what I said. So can we just revisit that? Can we just talk about that again? So sometimes things come out and it's well intended and it doesn't always come out the right way, and that's okay. But it's about learning that, isn't it? And it's about how can we fix that? So that's what I mean by the rupture, and thinking about how we could rephrase something. Something she said that resonated with me for my oldest child is sometimes when you're trying to communicate to your child, they aren't very good at being able to explain how they feel. And maybe what you're saying, they're just not able to listen. So she talked about maybe getting a little book to write things down to your child if they find it hard to talk. I remember my mum wrote me a letter when I was a teenager. And that was easier for me to digest, kind of how she was feeling, because at that age I didn't really care, which is horrible when I look at it now. But, you know, you're child-centred, aren't you? It's all about you. You don't really want to listen to anything else anybody else says. And you haven't got time for it, you haven't got the patience. But writing it down can sometimes be really helpful. I think it might be one I adopt with my oldest, actually. And then, yeah, it made me think of that memory of my mum doing that to me, and it did help. So yeah, be willing to reflect on your behaviours, how you show up, how you communicate, what maybe you could do differently, what you could try. Thinking about how your child responds, their personality, what's best. Because you can come at it from one way and they can come at it from another, but how do you meet in the middle without pulling that rope back and forth? Drop the rope, drop the struggle. How can you use your own experiences to help children? How can we as practitioners use our experience to help parents and children, and supporting those parents and letting them know we're all human and we're all doing our best? And then a really common one that comes up quite a lot for me as well. How long until they're better? Well, how long is a piece of string? It's not something we can comment on, because it takes as long as it takes for a child to be able to work through something. We're all different. So she's put a quote on there by Carl Sandburg. I can feel my voice going now. Life is like an onion. You peel it off one layer at a time, and sometimes you weep. So life will always be challenging. You have your good days, you have your bad days. You have your days when you think, where everything just goes wrong. You just think, is there a camera on me? Someone filming me? I say this to kids a lot. I've had a really bad day, and I feel like someone must have been filming me. And I would have said for Beatles about, but they wouldn't know what I was talking about. But hopefully, if you're of my generation, I'm 45, then you'll know what I'm talking about. You're on candid camera. We're nearly there. I hope my voice is going to hold out for this. Other things that parents might say. This wasn't the child that I was hoping for. Other siblings are fine. I wasn't like that as a child at their age. Well, they are different. You're not going to produce a carbon copy of yourself. There might be traits of you in them, but they're not you. So sometimes I give my children advice about how I would handle a situation. One child agrees because she's very much like me in lots of ways, and the other one was like, well, I wouldn't do it like that. Oh, and that can throw me sometimes. I've got better with it over the years, but yeah, definitely her approach would be different. You know, there is nothing wrong with your child, but we do need to find ways to ride these waves that are coming their way. Right, question for you, question for all of us. Imagine you are at the end of your life and you're looking back. What are you most proud of when it comes to how you handled life's challenges? What top 3 strengths or qualities supported you the most during difficult times? And what would you like other people to say about you when they looked at the life that you lived? If you could travel back in time and give yourself one piece of advice when it comes to any challenges you're facing or you faced, what would it be? These questions are posed to children as well. And one of the answers from a child, which really got Kat right in the gut, was, they said, life is like a story and I get to choose what happens next. How's that for a bit of empowerment? So parents will often ask, how can I support my child between the sessions with you? So one of the things Kat asks is for them to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Again, I will put that up on my Facebook page. But it's really important that we look at the basic needs first. So at the bottom of the triangle is the psychological needs and the safety needs. That is first and foremost. We need to look at those for a little bit. So, is your child eating well, sleeping well, having enough to drink? We tend to jump straight up to the big ones. Well, I want to achieve this and I want to do this and I'm not able to do this. Okay, but we have to go to the bottom of the triangle first. Are you achieving all your basic needs? If you are, tick. We can then move slowly up that triangle. If you're not, you can't. You cannot go. There's no skipping. We have to start the baseline and work our way up. Work on those first. So this is the last section. So when it comes to those basic human needs, what 3 small things could you role model over the coming weeks in demonstrating the importance of getting those foundations in place? Remember, you need to keep it small, realistic and achievable. Because you must look after yourself. And then you are in a better place to support a child. Make sure you are taking care of yourself. It's the first thing I ask a parent when they ring me and talk about their child and what their child is going through. I always ask, what support are you receiving? What are you doing for you? Is there anything that you need? So by you role modelling, you are planting a seed. And it's about scaffolding, building something into the day, building into that routine, something positive for that child. Right, I'm going to end there. This was a long one, but it was a good one, hopefully. Well, I think it was good. Hopefully, again, you can take something from it. Hopefully it helps you. Please continue to feedback to me. It's really important that I receive that feedback. And if you're able to tell other people about the podcast that may find it interesting, obviously this was all dominated by EBSA and anxiety. But in general terms, there's lots of ways to making sure you're supporting your child and how to look after you and about relationships. So there's lots of general stuff in there as well. But there is more content to come that hopefully there'll be things you can listen to with your child. And there'll be other things that's just for you, that is adult led. So I will make sure I put that in the content. If I can just ask that you don't download it onto, if your child's old enough to have a phone, they don't download that onto their phone. It's on your phone, and then you can control what is being listened to. As anything else that in terms of apps and things like that, it's important that parental controls. Right, I'm signing off. I do apologise about my voice. Hopefully on the next one it'll be back to full strength. And once again, thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast.